Morning, morning. Okay. Looks like it's going. Q&A or poll. Whatever. All this stuff. Anyway, all right. We've got Lynn. We've got Sarah. Peter sounds like he's heading out the door. Catch later. Pardon my slurping rudeness. Let's see if we'll get a couple more in here. Maybe not. Nikki's in here. Good morning. Good morning, Nikki. All right, 6. What's the weather like down there? NS44. Been in all-night errands. Okay. It's kind of been cool down here. Winter is upon us. All-nighter. Okay, well. So we've been talking some about the 17. Sorry? Oh, what? 17 degrees? Like positive? $19. Oh, good. Well, can't say the same here. Good for you guys all. All right. Now, it was shared with me. Good morning, ugly. It was shared with me this morning about Greenwood lawsuit. Molly Denver, hello. Greenwood lawsuit. Now, this is not to be confused with Les Greenwood, to which I would say there is a lot of interesting things going on over there, being that charges dropped on the same day. Lisa's charges dropped on the same day as Les Greenwood's conviction is overturned. Interesting. Related? Maybe. There's definitely some things in the story that are related. But, I'm leery because I'm wondering if it's more red herring. Things to file away. Now, there is a lawsuit. We've spoken about it before. Good morning, Linda. Mentioned it a few times over the last couple of years, of the 1.18 billion with a B dollar lawsuit against the RCMP. So Charlene shared with me this morning about a website which I've got this set up here like this now. Oh no. Uh-oh. Really? Okay, here we go. One moment. So there is a website set up. RCMP, bullying, intimidation, harassment, class action. Intimidation and harassment, class action. Geoffrey Greenwood. Okay, not to be confused with Les Greenwood. Morning, Linda McDonald. Good morning. Hope you're feeling okay. I'm also sending special prayers to someone out there who I'm very concerned about, but just send positive feelings to people in this story. Please. Certain things have developed that have kind of sent me for a little bit of a loop, but there we be. Now, Geoffrey Greenwood and Todd Gray versus His Majesty the King. We've now moved on. Okay. So not to be intimidated, not to be confused. Jeff Greenwood. Notice administration website of Greenwood versus His Majesty the King. Trilogy class action services available, court-appointed notices. Okay, so I will drop that here. There is a video that I have that I added to my list that's private. I will make it public after this, which in the links below that, and we'll kind of follow through the links on this one, go through this lawsuit. Okay, so this is again lawsuit that I mentioned a few times, the 1.18 billion with a B dollar lawsuit against the RCMP. This class action seeks damages and other relief as a result of alleged failure by the RCMP to take reasonable measures in the operation or management of the force to provide the class, as defined below, with work environment free from bullying, intimidation, and harassment. The plaintiffs claim that the defendant, the King, is vicariously liable. By distance, vicariously. Scope of the claim includes RCMP's alleged failure to provide workplace free from sexual harassment of individuals, anti-gender harassment, general harassment, and harassment based on any grounds, including but not limited to racial, ethnic, and religious, except for gender-based stuff. Okay. Now, so this was certified September 20th. Okay. Let's go over here. I'll put it on the appropriate thing here. As I do hope Linda feels better. Okay, here we go. So we'll go back. This is Staff Sergeant Geoffrey Greenwood, February 10th, 2020.
I guess when you join any organization, any policing organization, you're there for the better good, and you're there to represent the people that don't have a voice. And to do the right thing is basically a motto of the RCMP, maintain the what. And for me, it ran against everything I believe that a police officer should be. And that regardless of how you look at a situation, there's two sides to every story, and getting to the bottom of it was paramount, in my opinion, and the people I was working with. And for a decision to be made that that was no longer a position the RCMP wanted to take, kind of war against everything I believed in the fiber of my core, my being. Me personally, directed directly at me, that was probably the most overt time it's ever happened, but I have experienced that in the past with senior management and members of higher rank than me that either use their position of authority to intimidate or bully or harass people. I've been a subject to that and have witnessed that basically throughout my whole career. The actions in Yellowknife really took a lot out of me, and it was that was probably I guess the moment that I said enough was enough. No, I had zero faith in the internal processes within the RCMP. Um, it's known, it's systemic. It's been mentioned in multiple reports, and even then, Commissioner Bob Paulson commented on the fact that there is a systemic culture of intimidation, harassment, and bullying that nobody to date has ever got a handle of, or even, in my opinion, tried to rectify. Honestly, the whole situation rocked me to my core as a police officer and a human being. I kind of lost my way for numerous years, and it impacted my family indirectly because I literally checked out of my life with them, and it took a lot of work behind the scenes, both my wife and myself and my family, to stay together as a whole. And to say I'm the only one in this situation, I think that would be um, irresponsible. I believe most members struggle daily with conflict at work, or if they're immersed in conflict. And it's very important to rely on your family. And in this instance, I relied on my family for almost 10 years before I got a handle on this. Reaching out and seeking counseling and assistance with just dealing with the overall feeling and the impact that it had on my life. It's hard to explain, but just reaching out and going to the services that were available with my wife and by myself, and with the OSI clinic in Calgary, they've been really good. So it's just having that moral courage to stand forward and say, hey, listen, I need help. And that's basically what I did. Do I actually see harassment, intimidation, and bullying still within the RCMP? Yes. Am I subject to continued issues? I would have to say there's been some peculiar things that have happened since I've gone public with this lawsuit that I've had to reach out to Megan and her law firm to deal with. Other than that, my family life is excellent, and my work-life balance is, in my opinion, balanced. I'm more at home than I'm at work.
Okay, now, what's he talking about? It's pretty vague and ambiguous. Global seems to be asking him things, but it's edited a lot. Now, what is he talking about? What is this lawsuit about? You look at the lawsuit, it seems kind of like, well, another Merlot type lawsuit, right? But that's might not quite be the case. So let's look at a little bit of background on this. Court documents reveal closer look at bullying allegations in Yellowknife, 1.1 billion with a B against you, RCMP lawsuit against me. CBC asked Yellowknife RCMP if corruption allegations were ever investigated. RCMP yet to respond. We got Staff Sergeant Geoffrey Greenwood still serving out of Red Deer. Ring true and some other things we've talked about in the past. Kevin Gregson comes to mind. Dr. Webster. A lot of things going on. Court documents offer more information the harassment bullying allegation one veteran officer is making against Yellowknife RCMP detachment. Morning, Jeannie, locked in the trunk of the car. Staff Sergeant Geoff Greenwood is one of two lead plaintiffs in a $1.1 billion class action lawsuit against the RCMP. He said he was ostracized within the force for trying to, what? Uncover corruption. Little different than the Merlot suit. Most of the two lead plaintiffs' allegations took place in the North. In them, the plaintiffs recount workplace horror stories and health problems they claim stem from pervasive and, quote, systemic bullying, intimidation, and harassment, end quote, within the force, according to the 44-page suit filed Friday in federal court. It's back 2018. Court documents, Geoff Greenwood says he began working for the RCMP in 1990 and 2003. After working in detachments throughout Alberta, Greenwood was transferred to Yellowknife RCMP detachment up north. He was promoted to sergeant and began leading a major operation into a criminal organization. Allegations of kickbacks. According to the lawsuit, Greenwood was part of a wiretapping investigation when he came across audio implicating some RCMP officers. Quote, I was monitoring the intercepts and I overheard conversations from two of our targets about possible corruption within the RCMP, Greenwood told the CBC. That corruption, he says, was in the form of kickbacks, officers being paid upwards of $60,000 to destroy evidence and leak the locations of undercover officers and upcoming drug raids. Systemic bullying, harassment. Maybe a little bit more corruption. Think again to what we've been going through, and we'll go back to that and touch on that a little bit with the SITREP report, July 10th, 2020. That's come to light. Okay? According to court documents, Greenwood says he traveled to Edmonton to interview an informant who told him who the corrupt Northwest Territory officers were. He says he passed that information along to his superiors at the Yellowknife detachment, but no action was taken. A few months later, Greenwood claims a new superintendent took over his unit. He says the superintendent told him to drop the investigation into officer corruption. I ended up coming across an officer who didn't like where the investigation was going and shifted the focus from that investigation, onto me, said Greenwood. He says he was villainized and that the superintendent filed how many? 7 code of conduct complaints against him. 7. For what? Bringing corruption to the attention of his superior. This is the way the machine works. Complaints against him, including dereliction of duty. Greenwood claims some of those misconduct allegations took place when he wasn't even in the country. You know, for those of you who can remember those videos I did about Gregson didn't even live in the same town, and they were claiming domestic assault against his then partner. He had an award for his duties in a different town because he was serving in a different town. Right. It shook me to the core. 2 years later, he says, all but one of those complaints were dropped because of what? Lack of evidence. In court documents, Greenwood says he was demoted to desk duty and given a terrible job evaluation despite a clean 27-year record. He says he made 2 separate harassment complaints to the RCMP, one against his superintendent, the other against an officer who he says tried to punch him in the face. Both, he says, were ignored. In 2010, Greenwood was transferred out of the territory. It shook me to the core, he says. Quote, it stripped me of what I thought an RCMP officer stood for and left me pondering everything in my life. Greenwood says he now suffers post-traumatic stress disorder and undergoes counseling. None of the allegations have been proven in court. CDC contacted Yellowknife RCMP to see if the allegations into corruption among the officers in the Northwest Territories were ever investigated. The RCMP have not granted an interview at this time. You know, you can downplay it all you want. Bullying, intimidation, harassment. We're talking about serious stuff here. Let's go over to Todd Gray. Sgt Todd Gray. Morning, CK, Brenda, Becca, Todd. Okay, if my computer would like to open this. No, whatever that is, I don't want anything. Buzz off. Update. RCMP, Red Deer RCMP officer, part of $1.1 billion lawsuit. This is from 2018. Red Deer officer, RCMP officers at the center of the $1.1 billion lawsuit against National Police Force. Well, I love how the media does this stuff. It's against you. It's against your grandkids, your great grandkids. That's who's going to be paying. Put us all in the poorhouse. In a lawsuit filed last Friday, the force accused of bullying, harassment, intimidation. Lead plaintiffs are a pair of long-serving male RCMP officers, including Staff Sgt Geoffrey Greenwood from Red Deer Detachment and Sgt Todd Gray, who works out of Fox Creek Detachment. Their allegations relate to incidents many years before they were in their current detachments. Greenwood and Gray could not be reached Tuesday. Greenwood told the CBC he experienced fallout after reporting allegations of corruption and bribery against officers who were working with him on drug cases more than a decade ago in the Northwest Territories. He was ostracized and faced trumped up, again, count them, seven code of conducts. Unbelievable, the lawsuit alleges. None of the lawsuit's allegations have been tested in court. It rocked me to my core. Quote, I was demonized and I was the one that was left with the problem and felt all I did was, and really all I did was my job. He blew the whistle and said, hey, maybe this stuff should be investigated. No. Gray alleges allegations of harassment dating back to 1998 when he was a member of the musical ride. He alleges that he was also witness to incidents of racism by superior officer when he was posted to Nunavut in the early 2000s. In a statement, the RCMP responded to the lawsuit. The RCMP has faced other legal actions in recent years. In 2016, the force reached it was actually over $100 million settlement, 3,100 female officers who claimed harassment and discrimination. In a statement, RCMP responded to the lawsuit. I'm not sure. Because we have received statement of claim for proposed class action and have not had the opportunity to review it thoroughly, it is too early to address any specifics. And says the statement, of course, typed through those channels over in Stratcoms. Quote, the receipt of another claim of this sort serves to keep us focused on the work that we are doing to provide all employees with a safe and respectful work environment free from harassment and reminds us of all the work still yet to be done. You know, you hear those lines all the time. They always have work to do. Somewhere down the line, they'll promise you something. Maybe. Let's just do some recommendations, though. Quote, the RCMP continues to improve and expand on measures it has put in place to address the conflict and inappropriate behavior in the workplace, says the statement. 2 separate filings, at least in the case of Staff Sergeant Greenwood. Both ignored and then tables turned. Let's do code of conduct investigations on you. Any report of misbehavior is concerning to the RCMP. Is it now? And we take such allegations seriously. We continue to encourage anyone who feels that they may be the victim of inappropriate behavior to report it. Again, dumbing down what? Corruption, kickbacks, bribery, money laundering, drugs, dirty officers, inappropriate behavior. Oh, I say that's criminal. The new lawsuit could affect tens of thousands of current and former employees. Oh. City of Red Deer Councillor Buck Buchanan, who retired in 2005 after 28 years as a Mountie, believes the RCMP remains antiquated in many ways and has become an unwieldy organization. Quote, they created, think I said something about the beast. They've created such a mammoth machine, in my opinion, of bureaucracy that they have a hard time getting anything done. Well, but they can cover their own ass and go after people who are good, seemingly doing the right things. All at your expense, 7 code of conducts. You paid for all that. For a guy who came forward and told the truth and said, listen, I think we should investigate this one. No. Think of all the resources that were dumped into that. Each of those. Oh my God. Efforts are being made, he said, pointing to the RCMP's first permanent female commissioner, Brenda Lucky, and adopting a position of, quote, kinder, softer employer. Oh, Vision 150. Quote, kind of in the past, it wasn't that it didn't exist, it was just that people didn't come forward. End quote. Red Deer Mayor Tanya Veer said that she could not comment on specifics of a ongoing legal matter. The city of Red Deer, as always, is committed to a respectful workplace. I'm not sure quite why that ties in. City adopted a whistleblower program. Where's this in our country? To make it easier for people to bring forward concerns forward. For the RCMP, which is contracted to police Red Deer, complaints go to the Commission of Public Complaints against the RCMP. How those, remember that lady? Oh, how they can do their job and keep their mind. Oh, an allegation. All allegations are taken seriously, and our duty is to ensure we have strong processes to uphold respectful workplace standards. This is not about respect. You're investigating people, investigating officers who come forward to report criminal activity. So then we go fast forward, okay? So January 23rd, 2020, this was the filing of in federal court, okay, of the Jeff Greenwood, Todd Gray et al., because it's a class action. At that point in time, it was against the Queen. And certification motion was heard June 18th, 19th, September 24th, 20. So I believe this is the decision, proposed class action proceeding. Okay. As I'm going through this, I want you to think about things like, we could go back to, there's so many of them. Anybody who says anything that's against the machine, the tables turn. In fact, during MCC hearings, Corporal Tim Mills talked about how he was being investigated because he asked for certain things and to do with the ERT members, and sounds like some promises may have been given, and then the tables turned, and then they said, we're investigating you. Now, he's like, what? And it's brutal. Like, it's brutal. I wonder if I can dig that clip up. Webster, who used to be, I think, is he still working? I don't know if he's still working for the RCMP. I should be careful. And they did an interview with him, and he helps officers and former officers. His office got broken into. Files were taken. I mean, this stuff is really unwieldy. Think back to Dave Moore. Another. and when Global was doing an interview with Webster, I'll see if I can dig it up whilst we're doing this. But obviously, I need some time. Wish I had like somebody who could do that for me whilst I was just sitting here. Webster, Global was interviewing Webster, and he was talking to a couple of officers. Well, wouldn't you know, they got pulled over and harassed. Right on TV. These people are crazy. Crazy. Okay, so January 23rd, right? Well, what happens then? Well, let's go forward. The lawsuit alleging systemic negligence of bullying harassment claims in the RCMP moves forward. Again, the media just really soft soaping criminal activity within the RCMP, right? By certain members. And then the cover-up. Federal court rejects Crown's arguments in favor of ending the lawsuit. Again, please think about all of the money that is being spent. All of the lawyers. Do you see anywhere else in this picture where lawyers are getting paid atrocious amounts of money? Your great-grandkids' money to fight the right thing. I'm trying to think if there's anywhere else or a couple of others off the top of my head that are currently going on, even though they say they're not. Right? No. We got to fight that. The right thing to do would be, first of all, to settle with this man or these men, and obviously conduct internal investigations, fire if necessary, and criminally charge anybody who is involved. If you are outing undercover officers, you have placed them at severe risk of harm. Sounding familiar anywhere in this story yet? Like, one moment, please. Oh, just wait. We ain't seen nothing yet. This one. I assure you, they're going to be the sit rep hitting the fan. Big time. Probably going to make the $1.18 billion lawsuit look like peanuts. Whoa. Massive $1.1 billion lawsuit against your grandkids because of these individuals, certain individuals, alleging, quote, systemic negligence in case of bullying, intimidation in the ranks has cleared another hurdle. Because who keeps throwing up roadblocks? Oh, is it that nasty DOJ again? You know, all those lawyers. Huh? We just found those documents under our pillow. What are you talking about? Sneaky websites and bullshit? Earlier this week, a judge dismissed Crown arguments. Who's paying? Oh, that's right. They aren't even born yet. They aren't even thought of. Because they ain't even around. Arrangements in favor of decertifying a class action claim alleging that internal remedies within the RCMP for complaints of bullying and harassment. No, CBC. Go to the root of the story. Name it. Are ineffective. The claim says that such remedies are tainted because they depend on the chain of command, which is often made up of people who are either responsible for the offending behavior or what? Acted to protect others. Let's see. Let's go back. Oh, shit. Let's see if I can find it quickly.
So the
Let's watch this for now.
So the RCMP as an organization wants to give this.
Sorry. Let's go back to Mills. Let's go back to Mills.
So the RCMP as an organization wants to give this impression that they care about their members and that they will do. Commissioner Brenda Lucky said herself, we'll do whatever we can, or, we can't do enough. The way we were treated after this is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. It's the reason I left the RCMP, actually. So we had 13 guys, tab operator, EMERT, and we went out and we laid our best down, to stop this threat, to save as many people as we could. We honestly did. And we were to work the very next day. And most guys were back in and, writing up notes, doing tasks, debriefings. We were there the very next day because you got a bunch of resilient guys that want to work is what you have. Problem is the setup of our team, 5 full-time members, we had the luxury of being in headquarters. They gave us initially 72 hours. They stood us down, not taking calls, but we were still at work. We start getting to the Wednesday or the Tuesday, the 72 hours, and it was asked, can we get a few more days? Yes, we can. We'll extend it to Friday. And for the aftercare, they set up a team debrief with 3 psychologists. So it was the RCMP force psychologist for Halifax here, Anna Nagy. It was the retired RCMP psychologist, Margaret Grant, I believe, and then there was a third civilian psychologist. So halfway through the week, when we were supposed to, the part-timers go back to work Saturday in their general duty detachments, one of the general duty members come up to me and he said, listen, man, he said, some of the guys have been talking to me, and he said, you know, is there any way on earth we can get a little more time to decompress by, you know, like here we are a week after Portapique, and we got to go back to work handing out COVID tickets or menial task stuff, or, you know, going to like just traffic stops, and we're not ready for that yet. Is there any way we could get a little more time to decompress? And I worked general duty for 20 years, and I was like, absolutely, makes 100% sense to me. So I went and spoke to my line officer, who was supportive. And he said, you know, you have this psychology debriefing Friday. Let's, you know, hold off before we push it up the line, meaning to get approval to see what they have to say about it. I said, great idea. So we went Friday morning, had this psychological debriefing Friday morning, and every guy, you know, laid their heart on the line and let them know how we were feeling. Their advice was, you know, be around like-minded people, you know, talk openly about it, stay busy, you know, don't, and that's how you can fight PTSD or trauma or anything like that. So that was their recommendations. And I said, perfect. This is what I've been asked, and this is what I proposed to my line officer, but we're looking for your support. At the time, Anna Nagy was out of the room, but Margaret Grant and the other one, and I said, you know, the part-timers are looking, we're just looking for 2 weeks for them to come in. I have tons of tasks for them to do, you know, with the aftermath of this. After action reports need to be written up, you know, all the deficiencies of drones and MWS in the vehicles, all that has to be straightened away. It's too much for 5 guys, you know, so we're looking for a 2-week period that 8 guys can come in and work with her in kind of an admin role, let them decompress, and then, you know, that will probably give them enough time to get back to general duty policing. Margaret Grant and the civilian was like on board. Yes, that's a great idea. We support that. Anna Nagy come back in the room, and she was kind of briefed on it. And she looked me straight in the eye and said, Tim, that's a great idea. I support that. So I went back and spoke to my line officer. I said, yep, the 3 of them support that recommendation. Great, we'll make it happen. So I, you know, that was the Friday after Portapique. Basically, Saturday was our first day off of work. I was home, and I, you know, like felt supported, felt like, all right, you know, we'll get through this. And Saturday afternoon, I get a call from my line officer. There seems to be a hiccup. Halifax District, our CMPs, you know, one of your members didn't show up for work today. They're wondering why. And I was like, well, you know, there's a miscommunication somewhere, because you know, and he said, yeah, we'll get it straightened out. So anyway, right off, that starts to bother you, that the lack of communication and the lack of empathy. And so then it grows and it festers and it grows. Saturday night was the first night I couldn't sleep at all. Sunday night, I get the phone call from my line officer. Nope, they're to go back to work to their home unit. And I said, I'm sorry, but I'm disobeying this. I said, they're coming into headquarters tomorrow morning because of what the psychologist agreed with, what I know is right, and what the guys need. So they came into work, and I told the guys, like, no, I'm not listening to bad orders. Like, you guys are coming in and we're working. And we went in as a team, and we were there. And I was making phone calls, and I was in touch with mental health. I forget the word they use, but some high-ranking deputy commissioners in Ottawa sent them emails saying, listen, we need, you know, some empathy. We need to see what's going on down here. I'm fighting this battle myself. I reached out to other people across Canada, and Monday morning I come in, and this is how I know it wasn't a misunderstanding, because I sent a text message to Anna Nagy, the RCMP psychologist. Crickets. She never responded back. Had it been a misunderstanding, I'm sure they would have called me right back. Oh, what's the confusion, this and that. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, we'll straighten it out. Nothing. Crickets. No one would call me. Monday morning, I get a phone call from the health services nurse. I forget her name. Well, this can't be right. This just can't be right. We'll look into it. Crickets, nothing. And Wednesday afternoon, I get an email from my line officer saying, nope, they're going back to their home units. So at that time, the part-time members that were a week and a half after Portapic was forced to go back and work in their home units. I had absolutely zero to gain from this because I was already full-time. This was for my part-timers. There were members off because of Portapic not working that are still off today that didn't see what we seen, didn't experience what we experienced. We were at multiple sites, multiple casualties, and they forced our guys back to work, our part-timers back to work a week and a half after.
And as you said, that was the genesis of your decision eventually to.
Well, it got to the
leave
point
service.
where we wanted this investigated. We wanted to, how did this happen? At that point, we're bitter. We're bitter at management. And we want to find out how this happened. I knew how it happened, but we wanted to find out for sure. And we kept digging and clawing for information and wanted it investigated. And sure enough, just got swept under the rug because the people that made the decisions and protected the people that made decisions are commissioned officers. And sure enough, just got swept under the rug because the people that made the decisions and protected the people that made decisions are commissioned officers. And they basically protect each other. So it's what's good for you isn't good for me, vice versa. It's basically a two-tier system. And and they were going to investigate me. I was given a heads up, you're being watched. And they were going to investigate me. I was given a heads up, you're being watched. And they were going to investigate me because I've got the transcripts of text messages where we want an official statement from the two other psychologists on what Tim's saying. Because they were trying to paint me as a liar, where I had 13 other witnesses in the room that heard the same thing I heard. So at that point, I still want to investigate. I want the truth out there. And I kept saying right from the start, you want to know the truth? You get the 13 of us in the room with Anna Nagy, Margaret Grant, the other psychologists, and the people making the decisions, and you're quickly going to find out who's telling the truth. That never got done because they knew who was telling the truth, and they didn't want to show that they were protecting a liar. So at the end of it in November, the person that was responsible, I was in contact with her supervisor, Superintendent Rob Doyle, to investigate his employee for wrongdoing.
Okay.
And he did nothing and basically became arrogant and abusive.
Did you hear how, what is his name? He's disappeared, of course. Did you hear how he wanted to shut it down? Okay. You can hear it in the background. Okay. Don't say anymore.
Rob Doyle to investigate his employee for wrongdoing.
Okay.
And he did nothing and basically became arrogant and abusive and, shameful in emails to me. And at that point, I was like, I'm done working for a broken organization. I'm done working for this organization.
Of course, he talks about how it started to ruin his home life and who he was as a person. And he's like, I'm done. I'm out. All right. Now we go back to, I don't know. What else has he said here?
Going to.
I believe it's this one. Sorry, I'm trying to remember.
Well, it got to the point where we wanted this investigated. We wanted to,
No, sorry. Give me a minute here. I'll find it.
Going to direct you back to Portapic in the early morning hours of April 19th. And we have statements from a witness named Leon Jodry. And you might or might not recall that he is the person, his home is where Lisa Banfield went and Ert rescued her from. Setting that aside for a moment, though, Mr. Jodry has given evidence or statements that that he was out of his home around 4 a.m., went for a drive down Orchard Beach Drive, and he calls it a SWAT vehicle, but we know it's the TAV, directed him to leave the area, to go to the...
Sorry, I think
Going
this is,
to...
I got the wrong one. Where is it here? Ah, here. My apologies. What was it?
And in this part of your statement, Corporal Mills, you talk about power corruption within the RCMP. Would you describe what you meant by that statement?
yeah. So the issues management team, you have two husbands of the CO of the province and the chief superintendent of who's in charge of Halifax District, who have both since retired. So their husbands are in charge of an issues management team. Well, your team had issues with both their wives. So when I look at that, and like I said, that's not incompetence putting them on the issues management team. You can't be that stupid. So to me, that's cover up, that's corruption. There's no other two ways around it, I think.
Sorry, what does he say in the interview with Mr. Burrow? Oh, of course. What was it? Oh, he said, okay. Just move along. Just quit talking about that. In the interview with Mr. Burrow, he said, damage is being done. It's a whole thing, right? Says Mr. Burrow. The job is rewarding, but the administration part is so tiring. Tim Hill responds, it's corrupt. It's corrupt. You know, you've got husbands of senior officers working with the issues management team. That's not even stupid. That's just corrupt. And I'm not talking money corruption. I'm talking power corruption. I've seen it. Two sets of standards, you know. We'll investigate the general duty members, you know, the rank and file. You're not touching an officer, a commissioned officer. We're protected. And what does Burrow respond? What does Burrow respond? See the cover-up in action? See it all over the place if you read the interviews closely. Jesus. It's everywhere. Just move along into something else. Yeah, that's very informative. Thanks very much. On a more basic general level, i.e. counseling services, psychiatric services, are you feeling okay with what is provided? Tim Mills. Yeah, I mean, you're a bit of a tough dude. I don't mind telling you that. Your nose is brown. Burl, transparent. Guys are not going to win this one. I can't share it without my mic on, so.
A former RCMP officer and psychologist is amazed by a phone call he received from his former employer. For the past 3 years, Mike Webster has not been working for the Mounties, but this past week he got a call from them about a sensitive RCMP file he still has at his home. The call has furthered his concerns about how the RCMP is now being run. Here's our Kendall Hansen.
Go in and I'll grab a couple of files and I'll come out and show you.
Former RCMP psychologist Mike Webster heads into an RCMP secured room in his house to pull some sensitive files.
So here are the files. I blank the names out so nobody can see whose files they are.
Webster can't show us the safe or security system because it would breach his professional protocols. But these are 2 psychological profiles of more than 440 Mounties who applied to go undercover that have been sitting in the safe at his house since his contract with the RCMP ended in 2009.
This is pretty personal stuff. It's highly sensitive. And these are people right across the country, from one coast to the other, who have made application to the undercover program.
Webster worked with the Mounties for 35 years, but when the use of force expert saw the Robert Jacansky tasering video in 2007, he gave his opinion to both the media and the Braidwood Commission.
They panicked. They didn't know what to do. They abandoned their good basic training and they embraced some very questionable training that they had had more recently. And we ended up with a terrible tragedy.
Webster says the RCMP immediately began to sever their relationship with him. His contract for this work was not renewed when his contract expired, and the files have just sat in his house since.
If I was somebody who was angry at the RCMP, hostile towards the RCMP, wanted to hurt them for what they had done to me, I could have sold these files to my unsavory friends.
And then the phone rang Tuesday. Webster says a Mountie in Ottawa called to inspect the security system at his house. Webster was dumbfounded.
Leaving this safe here with these files in it is reflective of the RCMP being all over the map. The right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing.
In a statement, the Mounties say the files were never at risk, and security provisions apply both during and after one's service with the RCMP, and that there is an onus on all employees and those contracted to work for us to immediately return classified or protected information.
I'm afraid they don't know what.
How long ago was that? Like notes and things like that? A long time ago. Oh yeah, the onus is on you to return. I'm not going to touch YVR.
What they're doing.
Webster says he will hand the files over if there is for us to immediately return classified or protected information.
I'm afraid they don't know what they're doing.
Webster says he will hand the files over if there is a proper process to officers with proper security clearances, something the RCMP says they are now lining up on doing.
Okay, you have Pierre Lemaitre. There's another tragic one. Really? Threw him under the bus? Suicide. Good job. To the point that Catherine Galliford, you see, it just gets worse and worse and worse. Catherine Galliford, the bus runs over her. right? Unbelievable. But she comes forward because she's in life has not she's had a difficult go, but she came out to speak on behalf of Pierre Lemaitre. See if we can find that. And I'm digressing a little bit. I will come back. Jesus. You know, like this stuff is just horrible. He was in agony. Dead Mounties friends blame RCMP for betrayal. Former RCMP spokeswoman Catherine Galliford says coroner's inquest can validate Pierre Lemaitre. November 28th, 2018. Catherine Galliford says she wanted to attend the coroner's inquest into the death of her friend Pierre Lemaitre despite agoraphobia that has left her a virtual prisoner in her own home. Catherine Galliford says that she has only left her house about 15 times in the past 2 years. The woman whose face, this is Darren Campbell's ex-wife, whose face was on the cover of every newspaper in the country after she broke the wall of silence about sexual harassment within the RCMP, now has agoraphobia, fear of crowds. Well, not now. It's not new. She lives as a recluse in her northern BC home, imprisoned by internal demons. But Galliford promised herself that she would come to the Lower Mainland and a coroner's inquest on the 20th floor office tower next to the busiest malls in the province, one of the busiest malls in the province, this week to honor her friend, Pierre Lemaitre. Both of them were in communications, dealt with the press. I was really trying not to be here because I have tremendous fear of leaving my house, Galliford said, as she stood by a bank of elevators, foot of Metrotown Tower. But I thought, I need to do this for Pierre, and I need to do this for myself, even if I could only do it on medication. I got here and I did it for Pierre. I watched him go through hell. Galliford was the last witness to appear Tuesday in a day of drastic testimony that centered on the impacts of policing, both in terms of the horrors the RCMP members experience on the job and the way the force handles those traumas internally. Maitre died of self-inflicted wounds 2013. You know how many officers kill themselves? This is really disgusting. I mean, the financial cost is unbelievable and what we're going to be facing. But think about that's nothing. The toll that these people, all these good people, are going through. The seeds of major depression and post-traumatic stress disorder were sown, tragedies he attended on-duty officer, and administrative battles he fought as a media liaison. The Maitre was apparently devastated when he was prohibited from correcting initial misinformation he gave to reporters after the tasering of Robert Dzansky by 4 RCMP officers, Vancouver International Airport, 2007. YVR stuff, which I haven't gone into a lot, but is a deep hole. Atoya Montague, a former civilian member, Media Relations Unit, told the coroner's inquest jury Lemaitre gave the public the facts investigators gave him. And when it became apparent those details were at odds with reality, he knew what the public would think. I watched him go through hell, Montague said. He was in agony. It was just terrible. The single biggest institutional betrayal. She said Lemaitre heard a popular radio host describe him as an RCMP spin doctor. He saw his face appear on split screens along with Zansky with the words Mountie lies, quote unquote, written in captions beneath. All he wanted to do was tell the truth. She said. Instead, he was ostracized and shipped out to another unit where he would later overhear an officer describe him as, quote, redundant, end quote. It was the single biggest institutional betrayal I witnessed, said Montague. Like Galliford, Montague was determined to set the record straight. She appeared by Skype from the United States. She sobbed as she finished her testimony in a torrent of words. Quote, I blame 100% of this incident and his mistreatment for his suicide, she said. Krista Carley, there's another one. There are just piles of them. Quote, there is no question that he was being used as a scapegoat and being betrayed so fundamentally by the very people who he was told were his tribe, his family. And nowhere in this whole timeline, in the years that follow, did anyone responsible show any humility or apologize to him for destroying his career and his reputation and betraying him in this terrible way. It's not a normal job. Montague was medically discharged because has in 2017, like Galliford, who is now retired, she has her own public battles with the Force. I think I've gone through some of her stuff. Both women filed lawsuits alleging sexual harassment. Galliford's was settled in 2016. Montague's outburst drew caution from the jury, from coroner Vincent Stancato. He reminded them their job is to find the facts as opposed to fault. What's that? Oh, sounds like mass casualty commission. Nothing to say here. No, we're not supposed to be finding anything. We're not supposed to find nothing here except waste. $100+ million. And traumatize all kinds of people. 24. Good job. They are also expected to make recommendations accordingly. To that end, 3 medical professionals all testified about their attempts to deal with the major depression and PTSD that turned Lemaitre from a kind, gentle, and sensitive soul to the man that was consumed by rage, anger, and anxiety. Like Mills. Mills said, I got to get out. I can't treat, I see what's doing to me. The way I become around my wife, my kids, my dog. There's no way. Sorry. Psychologist Georgina Nemitz described Lemaitre as a, quote, lovely man, end quote. But she said he was also proud. Nemetz said the RCMP has become more responsive to PTSD in the years since his death, but support still varies from detachment to detachment and commander to commander. I still don't believe all is being done. Nothing's being done. It's just pay, 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 and the emotional toil it's taken on widows, children without mothers and fathers. This is unbelievable. I don't believe all is being done. It's not a normal job. And recruits going in should not expect to have a normal life. And they should not expect their usual coping skills to be sufficient to protect them. His name has actually been cleared. Galliford walked slowly to the sand after watching Montagu's testimony dissolve into tears. She spoke deliberately about her experience with Lemaitre, telling the jury he was, quote, genuine, kind person, end quote, who automatically garnered her trust. She detailed an incident which she was transferred to a night shift after reporting her supervisor for sexual harassment. It's interesting, she said, Pierre was transferred to some throwaway place. While the supervisor ended up in a detachment near where he had a holiday home. You get the promotions. You're part of the club. If you want to run people over, that's what you get. Meanwhile, good people just keep going. That bus. Testimony done, Galliford walked gingerly out of the inquest room. Fuck off, bots. Government, you don't do shit. CSE, piss off. Everybody sees through your games. Testimony done. Galliford walked gingerly out of the inquest room, and you're just making yourself look worse when you do that crap. You know that. You know that. We all see what you're doing. So it's not helping you. Neither are the smear campaigns that you're going to try and you have been trying to sow for a long time. Fuck off. Not going to work here. You're fucked. Deal with your problems. You guys that are all part of that, that bus will run you over. I'm telling you. I'm promising you. Hand to God. Hand to God. Even though you're part of it, too. You think you're safe. You ain't safe. Nobody's safe in this one. The necklace. She wore a heart-shaped necklace and thought carefully before looking squarely into a television camera. I absolutely feel this is giving him some validation, she said, and his name has actually been cleared. Too bad. It's posthumously. I mean, I got files, reams of them. Reams, literally. I have so many fucking hard drives on my computer. It's outrageous, and they're filled with stuff. Wow. I'm just looking over some of them right now. Unbelievable. So let's see, where was one? Where's Paulson talking about bullying? Because that's a good segue to go back to where we started. Oh, boo. You're going to have a little cry, Bobby?
We hurt you. We hurt you. For that, I'm truly sorry.
When the RCMP commissioner acknowledged decades of shameful conduct in October, it appears that did not include every woman with a claim against the force, including 2 of Dr. Greg Passey's patients.
The crocodile tears.
You see who that was? That was Montague, right? This is Merlot Davidson.
Conduct in October, it appears that did not include every woman with a claim against the force, including 2 of Dr. Greg Passey's patients.
The crocodile tears by the commissioner. That was not about empathy or sympathy. That was about humiliation and embarrassment and having to apologize for this harassment and abuse of power that occurred on his watch.
He says that because the RCMP continues to deny his patients' allegations. In Corporal Susan Gastaldo's lawsuit, she claims her supervisor repeatedly sexually assaulted her on the job. She was disciplined for what the force calls a consensual affair, but was later cleared of wrongdoing.
You're in the middle of a business conversation and they want to ask you when you're going to have sex with them.
The other patient, Atoya Montague, claims she was in Corporal Susan Gastaldo's lawsuit. She claims her supervisor repeatedly sexually assaulted her on the job. She was disciplined for what the force calls a consensual affair.
Sorry? Do you see the pattern? Boom, 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 boom. And I should qualify what I was saying earlier, you know, because I see your shit. I've seen it for fucking years. I'm not dumb. All that you're showing by not doing anything, by the way, is you're scared. You're pissing your pants because you're afraid of the bus. Grow some balls. Get off the bus. It gonna run you over? You ain't saving yourself nothing.
But was later cleared of wrongdoing.
You're in the middle of a business conversation and they want to ask you when you're going to have sex with them.
The other patient, Atoya Montague, claims she was sexually harassed by a senior officer who has since been charged with sexually assaulting another coworker.
Oh, good.
She is furious her bosses visited her psychiatrist less than a month after Paulson's apology.
The idea that, again, a senior management person from this organization would come into my office, a physician, a specialist in regards to PTSD, and attempt to bully me into changing my opinion.
It's so bad. So bad. Please come change your opinion. Otherwise, we're going to frame you up.
And with a threat that they're going to go to the college, that totally blew me away.
He took it as a threat because the RCMP had done it before, filing a professional complaint against psychologist Mike Webster, who was critical of the force. But the RCMP says there was no threat to complain about Dr. Passey's medical license.
All he's saying is, how can I send someone back into a workplace where she's been abused when you haven't even so much as acknowledged that has happened?
None of the allegations have been proven in court. In a statement, the RCMP denies managers tried to bully her psychiatrist. The force says they can't indefinitely pay full salary to employees who they believe are unfit for duty for the foreseeable future. But Dr. Passey says the RCMP should just settle their lawsuits so they will recover faster and go back to work, not get fired.
Will you intervene in their firings?
The public safety minister has already ordered an investigation of their cases and that of 2 other women who complained to him.
When you have this pattern over time, it obviously speaks to some pretty deep-seated problems.
Do they give a shit? Do they give a shit? No, they're part of the problem. It's all just optics to them. Come out and talk like you mean something, you're going to do something. It's all the same. Promises in the future, recommendations, goop. All of you. Ralph, you could just go on and on. It's just bullshit.
And that is why I have taken a multi-pronged approach to dealing with it.
Goodell says he is waiting for former Auditor General Sheila Fraser's report at the end of the month to advise him on how the RCMP is doing when it comes to sexual harassment. Natalie Clancy, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, I think we all know.
For that, I'm truly sorry.
When the RCMP
We hurt you.
Boo! Boo! Bus gonna run you over. Bus gonna run you over. Blundell. That's classic. Oof. Oof. Then you start to get into some real dirtiness. Anyway, I won't segue into that. But wow. Mr. Biggs and Blundell. Peter German. Coming to save the day. Maybe we should just look at that. A senior RCMP allegedly aided accused officer. What was that? Oh, that's right. Oh, you know, kind of what Tim Mills was talking about. Deputy Commissioner says RCMP policy for accused to see information. 2011. We're going to get an ad if we play this, probably. Yick. When does this shit end? Oh, 8 seconds. Does anybody care? We're not going to buy your garbage either. I don't know.
Our investigation into allegations of sexual harassment at the RCMP has now reached the top level of the force. CBC News has obtained a statement of claim that alleged that one of the candidates shortlisted to be the next commissioner interfered with an investigation of Sergeant Robert Blundell, an undercover Mountie who was sued for sexual misconduct. Natalie Clancy updates the story that she broke for us right here Monday. Natalie.
Well, Peter, we have heard from dozens of Mounties now, and tonight many say the case that angers them most is the alleged cover-up and promotion of Robert Blundell.
Well, I get goosebumps because I just get so filled with, I guess, rage almost that these things happen.
Sandra Kelly left the RCMP because of how women were treated. She's outraged to learn the lengths senior management allegedly went to cover up the kind of harassment that forced her out.
If you complain, you're blacklisted.
Krista Carley is one of 4 women who complained about Robert Blundell, and according to the statement of claim, were punished with threats and intense harassment.
I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress as a result of my career with the force and the harassment. I ended up taking a medical discharge because I couldn't continue on in the job. I separated from my husband and divorced. I have 2 children that don't live with me.
The Assistant Commissioner Peter German.
You know what happened to her? Do you know what happened to her? Shit breaks my heart.
Her lawsuit was against 19 officers, including one of BC's top Mounties, Deputy Commissioner Peter German, who was on the shortlist to become the RCMP commissioner. In the statement of claim, the women accused Peter German of improperly interfering with the investigation by, among other things, providing Blundell with the contents of the internal investigation file and specifically with the statements given by them so that he reviewed it before he gave his own statement in regard to the subject matter of the investigation.
It's very troubling.
Paul Champ is a lawyer who has successfully sued the RCMP for harassing Mounties. He says senior officers act with impunity. This claim says as a direct result of German's interference, no hearing was held and a controversial plea bargain was struck, docking Blundell just a day's vacation pay.
Sorry?
After being disciplined, he was promoted.
What was that? He got a 1 day. I won't go through the details of Blundell's case, but it's bad. 1 day. Oh, and a promotion.
Blundell just a day's vacation pay.
After being disciplined, he was promoted. So, that sends a real message both to, rank and file RCMP officers, but also senior managers who might think, well, I don't have to change my behavior.
Rob Creaser is retired now, embarrassed of his old uniform.
Yep.
And furious, Blundell is now in charge of VIP security in Vancouver.
Obviously, the allegations were substantiated. Why are you rewarding
even with Germans'
that has
help
behaved in that way by promoting?
Tonight, Deputy Commissioner Peter German denies he interfered in this case. He says officers facing disciplinary proceedings are entitled to disclosure of the case against them. Peter?
All right, Natalie, thanks very much. Natalie Clancy in Vancouver.
I mean, I could literally sit here all day and play, for a long time and just play different cases. They're everywhere. And until people wake the fuck up and see what kind of horrific mess we're in, people suiciding, right? Let's look here, right? We've got and the machine keeps costing more people's lives, and we don't really know how many. I don't think probably 24 is going to be the end of the story. I frankly don't even think we're still 24. I think there's more right now. And it certainly has the potential to go even further. Let's go back to where we started. So, okay. So we left off with that the government tried to quash the suit, right? They tried to get it decertified. September 2021, corruption, drugs, money laundering, whistleblowing, right? Okay, so that's not good enough. That's not good enough to try to just get rid of it there. All of Lori Ward and friends. Okay. No. Let's go further. September 23rd, 21. All right. No, let's go right to the Supreme Court. Let's appeal that. Try and ram them up on 7 fake charges. Code of conducts. No, not good enough. And still in, by the way. Wow. That's balls, man. No. So now we're going to appeal it again. Supreme Court dismisses appeal to try to stop class action lawsuit against RCMP for bullying. No, for whistleblowing on criminal acts alleged. but I would say that it's probably got a pretty good basis. Oh, St. Patrick's Day earlier this year. The Supreme Court of Canada will not hear an appeal, thank goodness, from the federal government trying to stop 1.18 billion. Don't forget those 80 million class action against the RCMP for bullying and harassment. Do you see what they do? The fucking media, who are all getting paid off by the government. Lead plaintiffs in the class action, veteran RCMP members, Staff Sergeant Geoffrey Greenwood and Sgt Todd Gray, say there is a culture of systemic intimidation and harassment in the force that was condoned by RCMP leadership. Where'd that comment, Todd, again? Huh? The class action was first filed 2018. Federal court judge certified in 2020. Federal government fought the case from the beginning, arguing who's paying for this? Not the federal government. These are misnomers. That's your great grandkids will still be paying for it. Our country is fucking bankrupt. Like beyond bankrupt. We pay these assholes. We pay the assholes who are criminals that allow this behavior up there. We pay the assholes that are criminals that defend them. All the way. All these fucking lawyers, judges, investigators, all when they decide to do something, if they're not finding blame. The federal government fought the case from the beginning, arguing the RCMP had an internal administrative resolution process. Really now? Is that trying to bring up code of conducts on the people doing the right thing? Driving members away. Good members. How about members committing suicide? How about that one? Is that what the internal process is? The bus? Brrr, boom. For workplace harassment claims that precludes the use of a class action to address the issue. You don't address it. The Federal Court of Appeal upheld the lower court's ruling, certifying the class action last fall. The federal government, what? Oh, we're paying them. Then sought to have the Supreme Court of Canada review the decision. Like they don't have anything better to do. Maybe hear a serious case, not a corrupt one. In a decision Thursday, the Supreme Court dismissed that application with costs. Great. Who's paying that one again? Oh, don't worry. It's just us. paving the way for the class action to proceed. As usual, the Supreme Court gave no reasons for the decision to dismiss the appeal, which you can find on GAN law. There's nothing there. In a submission, the Supreme Court asking in it to hear the appeal, federal lawyers, my employees, argued, they're usually dingbats, by the way, when there is an internal dispute process in a workplace, court intervention should be exceptional. Well, frankly, if you can't resolve anything for fucking decades, you failed! Guess what? Allowing the class action to proceed would harm the, quote, broad mosaic. What the fuck is that? When I went to school, and I got tired of university after a while because, frankly, and I loved university. I loved to learn. I couldn't stand what was going on there, though. Mosaic has nothing to do with it! Full thumb. Derp. Mosaic. Are these people honestly, like, really touched, special, touched in the head, as my grandmother would say? Broad mosaic of internal dispute mechanisms right across the federal public service, including the RCMP, federal lawyers argue. You see, that's why they don't want anybody doing anything, because it might extend outward beyond the RCMP. Because if you don't think that the problem exists elsewhere, oh, it certainly does. The plaintiffs argued, and who do you think they might use to go after other people that they have a problem with? I wonder. Maybe your employees. Dirty, criminal employees. The plaintiffs argued that the recourse available to them was to go up the chain of command to officers who were either part of the problem, but the criminal problem, or chose to protect the perpetrators of the harassment. I could show you lots of them. They called the government's appeal, quote, the latest chapter, in quote, in decades of government attempts to avoid accountability. Government attempts. No. Your employees. They're all bad if they're complicit in this one. All of them. But they better get off the ship. Like, all across the board. Government ones. Trashy lawyers. Trashy judges. Trashy RCMP. In attempts to avoid accountability for the toxic culture. There we go. Another brainiac. Of bullying and intimidation in the RCMP. RCMP Commissioner Brenda Lucky said in a written statement, so she doesn't get a mat issue, racist mats, that she respects the decision of the court. quote, separate and apart from court proceedings, I recognize there is always more we can do to improve our workplace. Like Vision 150, don't you know? That's only going to set it up for even more fun to come. Oh, there's going to be a lot of fun with that one. Ensuring a more equitable workplace free of harassment, violence, and discrimination is a top priority of the RCMP. Which pillar is that one? Which Vision 150 pillar goop garbage is that? You got from on high. She pointed to the launch last June of the Independent Center for Harassment Resolution, a centralized and independent unit. Is that like CERT independent? Shit. Specifically established to resolve harassment and violence within the force. Quote, I am determined to bring about positive change at the RCMP, but you have issues even telling the truth when confronted. You can't acknowledge the lies you tell. That's a problem, Lucky said. This is not the first class action, nor will it be the last against the RCMP over alleged harassment. In 2016, a settlement which was reached is class action from hundreds of women who were sexually harassed and abused while members of the RCMP. Ultimately, the 125 million, they tried to leave out the 25 million on an earlier article I read, was paid to over 2,304 women. Of course, that's not the only one either. Okay, so then that disappears. Meanwhile, we've paid for all that. Which brings us to where we are today. At least in terms of this one. Meanwhile, you're paying for the website maintenance even on this shit. All the people who write it. Yum. Do you know how much money you could save? You're worried about getting into a hospital? Seeing a doctor? Think about it. A lot of money. Loads of money. Billions and billions and billions of dollars. Federal Court of Canada certifies class action alleging failure of RCMP to provide workplace free of bullying and intimidation and harassment. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about cover-up of complicit criminal activities alleged within the RCMP. And then intimidation of members. That's what we're talking about. The Federal Court of Canada has certified September 24th, 2022, has certified Greenwood versus His Majesty the King as a national class proceeding on September 20th, 2022, despite all of your fighting, griping, which you're all happy about too, because your friends all get paid. You all pat each other on the ass. Hey, guess what? We got another one. Yay! I got some work to do. I can fight it. is just a vicious circle. All of them. Stinky lawyers. Once upon a time, I used to think the legal system, to some capacity, I was raised in that household, was a meaningful occupation, profession. Not so sure about it, looking at all the shit. By the way, you guys are garbage and have destroyed what once was a somewhat noble profession. I know people will disagree with me, but there were a lot of good lawyers out there, and there still are some. Then there is real trash. Sound familiar? Few real disgusting people who have ruined things for everybody else. Burning uniforms, etc. But you're happy. All of you. Sick people. Disgusting. You ought to hang your heads in shame for the rest of your lives. The class action seeks damages on behalf of all current or former RCMP regular and civilian members, special constables, and reservists who worked for the RCMP between January 1st, 1995 and the date of an applicable collective agreement. Not sure when that is exactly. Does somebody want to go and look for me? When was the last agreement? That would be with NPF Goop. The nature of the claim made on behalf of the class is systemic negligence. No, it's not systemic. It's just some real shitty people. Criminals! Quit labeling all the good people, driving them out, destroying them, having them commit suicide, burn their uniforms. It's not systemic. It does unbelievably horrific damage when you do that, rather than identify the true problem. A few of you, in particular Geoffrey Greenwood and Todd Gray. So are they systemically, did they fail? Did they fail? Because that's what I'm kind of reading. If it's systemic, that means it's all across the board. That doesn't make sense logically. Fail. 101 philosophy. You'd fail! The representative plaintiffs allege there was a culture of systemic bullying, intimidation, and harassment. Or was, in the case of Greenwood, was it one supervisor and some trash upwards and probably some trashy criminal officers taking $60,000 kickbacks? If that is true, like I'm unbelievably horrified at the undercover officers who got sold out. The ones that were trying to do a good job. Not that I'm a huge fan of undercover stuff these days anymore, but because it's so blurry. It's so blurry. Remember, 36, April 28th. April 28th, 2021. Bad day. Bad day for the RCMP. You sold out your fellow officers for some cash. Just wait until they find out who you are. They're not going to be real happy with you. Because I could see that may place their lives in danger. their families in danger. Most people don't react well when you put bounties on their head for some cash. But maybe I live in a different world. Maybe they're fine with it. Impropriety. What does that impropriety? Like they didn't say please? Failing to follow that one. Looks like complicit cover-up of alleged criminal activity. Failed to see, harassment that affected all those who worked within the RCMP, and that in allowing the culture to manifest and permeate the organization from where's that again? I don't need to calm down. Nothing. I ain't even started. Haven't been saying anything about the white shirts since the start of this shit. The RCMP failed to fulfill its duties to provide class members with a work environment. You knowingly endangered people's lives. Like literally endangered. Maybe even some of them were killed. We don't know that. If undercover officers were outed, right? Do you think that criminals may have taken some actions against them? Could that be? It doesn't seem like a very far leap in logic. Wow, philosophy is an art that's gone. Proper argumentation. The RCMP failed its duties to provide class members with a work environment free from bullying, intimidation, harassment, as well as based on any grounds, including but not limited to sex, gender, race, ethnicity, or religion. So that's why there's 3 different classes, I believe. They're throwing in a bunch here. Court-appointed class counsel are Kim Spencer McPhee, barristers, PC. The claims have not yet been proven in court, and that is important, but to be certified, right, to have gone to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is like, no, we're going to allow this to continue. I would say the evidence is beyond strong, like really good. And the defendant, your employees, RCMP, Canada, on behalf of the RCMP, your employees, has admitted no liability. Do they ever? Because nobody's on a fact-finding mission to find out. No blame here. Just give us some recommendations. Notice of certification is currently being disseminated to class members through a court-approved notice program that includes direct mailing and emailing. Wonder how much that will cost. A lot of members. posting in RCMP detachments and on RCMP internal and external websites. People are going to write that. You have to pay for that too. And through external publications and social media. Oh yeah, it's not more employees to write goop. A copy of the certification notice and opt-out form are available. What about all the trees and everything? There is no room for harassment, bullying, and intimidation in the RCMP. It is incumbent on every employee to come forward and speak out against this behavior. Shall I play more of my file? Because I got lots. Which one is it again? It is incumbent. That's actually what you've been fighting. You don't want people to come forward. Boom, boom, the bus goes over them. And for our leaders and supervisors to take immediate action to stop it. Well, I'll give you a real tip, like doors are hard tip, as Mr. Bundy would say. It's a reference to that terrible show back from the 90s or whatever the hell that was. Here's a tip. Doors are hard. You fire them and then you charge them. And guess what? Recoup my pension, please, and wages. Put it back into the Nova Scotia healthcare system. How about that? That sounds good. Maybe get rid of some of the bloat over there. We continue to strongly encourage anyone who feels to be a victim of inappropriate behavior to report it. That's talking out both sides of the mouth. Prevention is key to ensuring that workplace remains a safe and respectful space for everyone. Like to see how safe it is for the undercover officers that were outed. If you have been affected by harassment, allegedly, or discrimination in the workplace and need support, assistance is available through Employee Assistance Program. Okay, so more and more people being paid, which doesn't seem to work, like the 1-800 numbers, say, with mass casualty. Remember all those? We encourage you to phone. You can come and use the website that you paid for and get employees that you pay for. You phone the 1-800 number that you paid for. Oh, and by the way, we won't be there for you. I'm sure you could ask somebody that if they were around. No, we'll just keep this one going. RCMP employees and their families also visit our website. Is that redirecting to the Mass Casualty Support Network? The one that failed? For additional resources to support their mental health and well-being. Now, anybody happen to have a look? when the NPF's last agreement was? My hospital wait 8 hours unless you come by ambulance, then it's 3-hour wait. Anybody happen to find that for me? And no, frankly, the problem is that everybody has been too calm for too long. I would say. I've tried for years to say that there are problems, many years, and I get a little tired of saying it because nothing seems to change. People just play farming games on their fucking phone. Fuck around. What is it? I love that one. Where is it? One moment. One moment. This is classic. Okay, well, I have to wait one moment. This is about where I'm at. If this trash will discontinue with the... Okay. And frankly, most people should be at about this point. Very applicable.
As you can see, the more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
Couldn't let this slide, Joe. Could not let this slide. Let me just say this. That video you sent had the find out, fuck around line as 1-to-1. Ridiculous, bro. Ridiculous. Everybody that's ever fucked around knows that there is a certain level of fuck around that you get for free. And then the shit you find out gets found out real quick. You understand what I'm saying? It's an exponential curve. You fuck around this much, okay? Fuck around that much, I'm gonna let it slide. But you hit a point, shit gets real, and you find out real fucking quick. And that's the real fuck around, find out curve.
As you can see, the more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
Couldn't let this slide, Joe. Could not let this slide. Let me just say this. That video you sent had the
See, because I think a lot of people think it is a 1-to-1. This guy tells the truth. It ain't a 1-to-1. You're going to fuck around too much. You're going to fucking find out. Real quick.
find out, fuck around line as 1-to-1. Ridiculous, bro. Ridiculous. Everybody that's ever fucked around knows that there is a certain level of fuck around that you get for free. And then the shit you find out gets found out real quick. You understand what I'm saying? It's an exponential curve. You fuck around this much, okay? Fuck around that much, I'm gonna let it slide. But you hit a point, shit gets real, and you find out real fucking quick. And that's the real fuck around, find out curve.
That's true. Most people that have lived life know that one to be true. You can push people so far, and then they start to get upset. That's not threatening anybody. That's just true. That is just true. Don't do it. It's not a joke. It's true. You can keep fucking around and destroying people's lives. Literally ripping people's lives apart to the point that they're in the grave. And someday, people are gonna say, enough. Because they'll get tired of the games on their phone. They'll get tired of the sports. They'll get tired of the Bachelorette. And they'll start getting their head into reality. And when they wake up and see the horror show you have built for them, they're going to be mad. They're going to be mad. So, to bring it full circle, what do you think this is going to result in? The sit rep referral. July 2010. The one that Chris Leather seemingly fought and fought and fought. Let's read it. Don't get bored. Don't tune out. Tune in. Tune in and hear the words. Factor in everything that I said today, some of the interviews that I've read before on this one. Factor it in. Factor the lawsuit in, the criminal activity by higher-ups. Let's hear what this is about, since nobody in the media wanted to pay attention to this one. And the mass casualty decided to wrap things up without delving into it. Purpose: to advise the what? Commissioner. That would be Brenda Lucky. That information has been received by the RCMP about several members of blank. Several members. Sounding kind of Nunavut-ish. Yellowknife, my apologies. Yellowknife and Greenwood-ish. And that a referral will be made to the Serious Incidents Response Team, CERT. Oh, but Felix didn't like it. So don't worry about it. Just go away. Some of the information received is in relation to Police Act violations, but some of a serious criminal nature, and alleges wrongdoing by senior officers. The Criminal Operations Officer, H Division, that would be Chris Leather at that point, initiated 2 detachment meetings post-shooting incident involving Gabriel Wortman. These meetings were in response to requests for answers relating to shooting incident from frontline members. The criminal operations officer and members of his senior team attended blank. That would be a detachment, I suspect, Bible Hill. Members were provided an opportunity to ask questions so that their concerns could be addressed. Yay. Winner. A neutral process was set up along with the framework where issues could be brought forward. Several employees brought forward in writing that are to be addressed administratively. Okay? That's one thing. Now, during the review process, two persons, blank, came forward and provided information alleging serious criminal behavior committed by blank. Where are they again? I suspect Bible Hill. That would be RCMP officers. Committed by blank. The information relates to blank having a sexual relationship with blank, as well as the diversion of source payment monies. I've seen some other wording for this, much more damning than just diversion. Words like extortion, source money payments. Wow, who are sources again? Information was received, and what was it? A sizable amount of money, I believe was the wording. Sizable. Maybe it was very sizable. Maybe that was it. Very sizable amount of money. Information was received from a blank witness, which detailed a pattern of behavior, pattern of behavior by blank, along with significant detail, which blank describes as predatory in nature. Details provided by the blank witness included the name of blank and significant details of civilian witnesses who observed suspicious actions of blank in relation to his interaction with blank. Blank has no connection to the RCMP as a source. There are some clues in here. Both blank witnesses provided details about serving police officers at blank, including quite a lengthy blank. As Beck, that's a title. As being complicit in taking overt action to cover up criminal activity. That sentence is bad. Working real hard to cover shit up. There is significant detail provided by both witnesses of non-criminal behavior in relation to the Police Act violations by several members of blank, along with the cover-up of those actions by several members of senior command. A bunch of white shirts. Not saying one or any police forces or police organizations in particular. Could be any number. Information provided to the RCMP was on record, and in the case of blank, audio recorded. The names of dozens of witnesses, Felix, dozens, have been provided to the RCMP. Some are civilian witnesses, and some are police witnesses, and some are RCMP employees. You've got the full gamut here, and a bunch of them, dozens. The individuals that came forward did so on their own and are willing to be interviewed. Did you care to do that, Felix? One witness claims to have text messages, as well as other notes in blank's possession to corroborate some of what blank is claiming, like officer notes, member notes. Information received by the RCMP from witnesses reveals that several members of blank were aware of blank's actions and covered it up. Details were provided relating to a concerted, I love the strength of these words, concerted effort to cover up these allegations by blank. Again, lengthy. Not a constable, not a corporal. That looked to be nice and high up. And the suppression of evidence by not referring the matter to CERT when several witnesses came forward. No, not. What? Somebody's getting raped? What? Extortion? What? What are we talking about here? Both witnesses provided extensive detail. These words are damning about who was aware of this information, including several serving members of blank. That's certainly a lot longer than the Truro Police Department. A lot longer. So not just one, or is it the Nova Scotia Chiefs of Police Association? Again, I don't know. I'll refer back to that other document in a moment, but one RCMP pros file was provided. Okay, so that's something to do with obviously something that's been reported criminally, or an investigative file that's been opened previously, which has confirmed some of the names provided by the witnesses do exist. So what's the file? There are several pros files at blank that were discussed, but not provided by the witness. Detailed information was also provided by both witnesses about blank. Blank, quite a lengthy blank. Actually, this one I know is, I think there's 4 names, possibly 5 in there. If we look at a different version, you can see the commas. Some of this information related covering up sexual indiscretions, the arrest of, what's it? What? Who's arrested? Who's arrested? Are we talking about an officer? What's going on there? The arrest of blank seems quite lengthy in name again, as well as overt behavior by several overt. I love the word. The strength of English language. When used properly, it's not mosaic, it's not fulsome, it's not garbage words that people can't even define. By several senior employees, not to support and withhold information, or not to call the RCMP to assist on major investigations as mandated by the province. Oh, one witness provided, this is the one that's got me really concerned. One witness provided several examples of both routine and high-risk calls where the safety of RCMP officers could be compromised and civilians could have been placed at risk. The tense, where the safety of RCMP officers could be compromised and civilians could have been placed at risk. Is that a clue? Are we talking about 1819, April 2020? That's extremely concerning. And any of the family members that I've spoken to about this are really fired up. Like, real excited. Because they're wondering if their family members might, again, I'm reaching a little bit, but I don't think I'm going too far because of the other evidence that's there. And if it does have relevance on April 18 and 19, does that mean that their family members, their loved ones, would be alive today? How about the rest of the province? May not have been subjected to such trauma. Ongoing. That should make people shit their pants. I don't want RCMP officers being jeopardized, Truro police officers, any officers being jeopardized because of criminal acts and complicit cover-ups by senior command. What? Civilians could have been placed at risk. The information provided to the RCMP has been compiled in a report. The one that Felix got. The one that he put 2 investigators on. The one who questioned. But Felix then also equally says there was no investigation. So which is it? Did CERT do something? Or did they just under the rug? I don't want to deal with that. It sounds like it's secondhand information coming from one person. doesn't say that in this report. Dozens. Senior command officers, police officers, RCMP members, civilian witnesses. Sounds like you got a lot. Along with the audio recording and transcript of the recording. There are several criminal areas that need to be further investigated. This sounds like Yellowknife almost, kind of. You know what I'm saying? And a transcript, further investigated along with numerous Police Act violations. None of the information received by the RCMP has been corroborated. Fair enough. It's alleged. But obviously, it's pretty fucking serious because Chris signed off on this almost immediately. He knew about it in June, signed off on it in July with Costa, and sent it up the chain of command to Ottawa, as well as to CERT, kind of leaving the paper trail. None of the information received by the RCMP has been corroborated. A CERT referral has been made with the information. But, again, what kind of police officer can go on the fucking record and say things against senior command, factoring in the pieces that we've discussed over the past few years and today? What kind of officer do you think is going to put their ass on the line for a lie, or officers, members? Who would do that? They know how the machine works. To do that, you gotta be either really, I don't know, unhinged, multiple people, or there's something real bad going on. A CERT referral was being made for the information. There will be a requirement to interview RCMP officers who have been identified as having knowledge of some of the information. Did they report it previously? That has been collected once a process on the way forward has been initiated by CERT. On the way forward. Sounds like notes. Daily. Stratcoms. Oh. There will likely be what's the term? What's the term that they're using? Significant media attention. But right now, there's been silence since September 23rd. The same day as the last day of the commission. Same day I did the video. Same day that Chris Leather did the interview with the mass casualty because they didn't think it was very important. They left him till last. And then they said, oh, don't worry, we're working on our final report. Everything done here. Oh, you got a fucking world of mess. Now, think of all the people that have to come in. Brennan, Lucky, Leather, Diamopoulos, Santasuso, Bernard, Shari Picto. All of the officers. Felix. Oh, this is going to get real messy. Like, unbelievably messy. Significant media attention should the investigation be initiated if it starts, there's going to be a big fallout. If. I wonder, do you think the RCMP, other police forces, organizations, maybe senior command elsewhere, like really senior command, might want this one to come out? Is that why there's silence from the media? Even though Heidi and everybody got tweeted, lifetime, September 23rd. I told you. Strategic Communications has awareness. However, all media inquiries will be referred to CERT. Oh, pass the buck. They don't want it. I like this one. Privileged information recommendation. What privilege? And what role does this potentially even have in the current lawsuit by Greenwood? Geoffrey Greenwood. Is that why? There's also an interesting note here. Approved by Chief Superintendent Chris Leather, Acting Commanding Officer, in July. Again, I haven't touched on that stuff yet, but that's a clue. When CERT said no, when CERT, Felix said no, because it's up to him, unless somebody leaned on him a little bit, which is very possible. Very possible. Chris kept going and going and going. I don't think he would go if he thought it was a nothing burger. It doesn't look great on the RCMP, possibly, at least in part. Seems like he may have been doing, once again, the right thing. Looks like it's taken its toll. My prayers are honestly with this man, but he's smart. And he set out all kinds of switches and backups. So there you be. This stuff's going to get bad. I think this I don't know where it'll go, but I have a feeling it may potentially be even more disastrous than the gun stuff, potentially. That's really bad. Brandon, Lucky, Daly, Leather, all these people are going to have to come back. The Mass Casualty Commission is going to have to account for why they didn't think this was very serious, even though they admitted it themselves in the interviews. Very serious allegations of criminal nature. Were you aware? Yes, says Felix. Ooh. My find out moment was the second trip to Afghanistan when smoked air purification. How come RCMP be contracted to Canada if we think it's owned by Canada? Go down the it's owned by you. They've got everybody You know, it's just like they say taxpayers' money or whatever. That's you. That's your wallet. These are your employees, like quite literally. You pay them all of their salaries, all the paper, all of the pensions, everything. The lawyers, it's disgusting. I don't like having all this, you know, by very far extension. And obviously, I'm not like that. I don't approve of these kinds of behaviors. I don't like knowing that I pay for this shit. I don't like paying for people to be traumatized. Families, Leon, I don't like that. I don't like paying for criminals. I don't like paying for lawyers trying to cover it up. I don't like your great grandkids paying for it. And you shouldn't either. You really shouldn't.
As you can see, the more you fuck around, the more you're gonna find out.
Couldn't let this slide, Joe. Could not let this slide. Let me just say this. That video you sent had the find out, fuck around line as 1-to-1. Ridiculous, bro. Ridiculous. Everybody that's ever fucked around knows that there is a certain level of fuck around that you get for free. And then the shit you find out gets found out real quick. You understand what I'm saying? It's an exponential curve. You fuck around this much, okay? Fuck around that much, I'm gonna let it slide. But you hit a point, shit gets real, and you find out real fucking quick. And that's the real fuck around, find out curve.
Better start asking, please, and getting people. Start getting on your politicians. Start getting on the Mass Casualty Commission. Start reining it down on the social media platforms. What the fuck is going on with July 10th? 2020 cert referral. Not good. God bless you all. God bless the 24.